What is up, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 3&D here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you hit subscribe below and follow our socials at the 3&D ETB and at ETB Network. On tonight's episode, we got a jam-packed slate for you guys as the conference tournaments in college basketball are going down this week. We're going to be previewing the Power 6 schools and the Mountain West as well. There's been Power 7 pretty much the entire season, so we'll be previewing each of those conference tournaments, some of the awards that came out. On top of that, we have the final AP poll that came out. A few mid-major teams have already punched their ticket to next week's March Madness, and a bunch of injuries going down in the NBA that we're going to have to go over as well. So hope everybody is doing well, and we want to welcome, as we've been doing the last few weeks, we want to welcome Wolf Spreads as our show's sponsor and the sponsor here on the network. This episode is presented by Wolf Spreads. Are you looking to get involved in the action while rooting for your favorite team? Have you ever had a friendly debate on who can pick more games correctly? Does all this talk about parlays, lines, and over-unders make your head spin, and you want to learn more about the sports betting hoopla? Gamble with us and come check out Wolf Spreads. We're running a sports betting competition completely free on the Wolf Spreads app. Here's how it works. Everybody gets 2,000 fantasy dollars. That's fake money to bet on the action. Whoever can profit the most with their 2,000 bankroll wins. Wolf Spreads has competitions available for the NBA, MLB, NHL, and college football and basketball. Put fantasy dollars on the over-under, the money line, or the spreads, competing for bragging rights with your fellow players while having additional fun watching sports and not risking losing your house in the process. Wolf Spreads, sports betting for friends who love the action. So jumping right into things, we've got a bunch of injuries that have gone down in the NBA over the past couple of weeks. So to tip off the show, we got to jump into this. First one being Karl Anthony Towns. So Karl Anthony Towns going down and will be done for the rest of the regular season. So this is a huge blow to the to a team who's been leading the Western Conference and practically throughout the entire season. Obviously Towns was their star player for a long time, but Anthony Edwards' kind of breakout has pushed Towns to being the number 2 on the team, but this is a big blow for them, without a doubt. He's going to undergo surgery for his torn meniscus, which will put him on the shelf for a couple of months. His goal is to be back for the first round of the Western Conference playoffs, which would be at the beginning of April. So basically a month from now so he's hoping to only be out for a month. Surgery on a torn meniscus, I have a tough feeling that that's not going to actually happen. And the Timberwolves have felt his presence not being there. They were first place in the Western Conference for a long time. They've fallen down to third place now in the Western Conference. They're at 44-21 on the season. Oklahoma City's in first and Denver is in second. They're only a game and a half behind Oklahoma City out of first place, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game losing streak as it is. So they're going to have to figure out ways to piece some stuff together while Karl Anthony Towns is on the shelf, because that's a huge blow for this Timberwolves team, who is trying to turn their luck around, because the Timberwolves have not been competitive, have not been that great at all throughout the past 20 plus years since the Kevin Garnett days and stuff. And they're finally putting things together. Anthony Edwards is turning into a stud. Karl Anthony Towns has been a stud, but they finally put a team around him to actually compete. So this is definitely a big blow for the Timberwolves. We'll see what they're able to do to kind of try to piece things together and kind of keep the hope alive for the playoffs and still end up getting a pretty decent seed. And on top of that, a couple of other guys who got hurt. Alperen Şengün also went down with an injury. He injured both his knee and his ankle, was wheelchaired off the floor yesterday in their game. Originally, people were thinking the worst, probably torn ACL, torn meniscus, something like that, torn Achilles. But MRIs came back positive today, and he's going to be sidelined for a little bit. Could be sidelined the rest of the season, but it really doesn't matter because the Rockets are practically not even going anywhere anyway. They're sitting at the 11th spot right now in the Western Conference. They're 4.5 games out of a play-in spot. So they're most likely not making the playoffs at all this year. They're pretty much out of it, and they only have about 18 games, I believe, left to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if Şengün kind of sits on the shelf for the rest of the season. And then another team who's out of it, who lost another players, was the Atlanta Hawks. But this is a big one. Saddiq Bey, tearing his ACL. He's going to have surgery on his torn ACL. And obviously is done for the rest of the year. Trae Young as well is done for the rest of the year. So two of their big players now, and this is a big one because Saddiq Bey now can miss like some decent time going into next season now too, while he rehabs that. That's definitely not an injury that will just sideline you for a couple of months. But the Atlanta Hawks, as things turn out right now, the Brooklyn Nets keep losing, so they're not really much competition anymore. The Hawks are going to be able to play in the play-in, but they're sitting in the 10 spot right now in the Eastern Conference. And they're 2 games behind the Bulls for the 9 spot. And they have a 3.5 game lead over the Nets, who are behind them in the 11 spot. So it's looking like the Hawks highly likely will make the play-in, but they will most likely have to play the play-in without Trae Young or Saddiq Bey. And obviously, if you're a 9 or 10 seed, your chances are not very great to even make it to the first round of the playoffs. The 9 and 10 play each other, and whoever loses that game is eliminated right off the bat. Winner of that game plays loser of 7 versus 8 to see who gets the 8 seed. So you'd have to win 2 games. Doesn't happen very much, but those are the main injuries that, for the most part, have gone down throughout the NBA. This past week. A couple more interesting topics going on around the NBA. Errors on the Kobe Bryant statue. So Kobe Bryant, the Los Angeles Lakers revealed a statue for Kobe Bryant to honor his 81-point game and obviously honor one of the greatest Lakers of all time outside of the Crypto.com arena. And it went kind of viral on social media this past week that several names were misspelled. Coach's decision. They should, on the bottom of the statue, they have written out the box score of his 81-point game, and coach's decision was spelled wrong on one of the players. Jose Calderon was spelled wrong, and I believe there's one more player who had his name spelled wrong as well. I know that Calderon was one of them, and the word decision was spelled wrong, and which is completely insane. I mean, it really was. It's completely ridiculous that you put up a statue and you do not spell check when you're engraving it into stone. Like, this is a stone statue as well. Von Wafer was the other one that was misspelled. That's right. That's so I think it said Van Wafer, if I remember correctly. And Jose or Vom Wager. Gotcha. Yeah, Vom Wager. And Jose Calderon was spelled wrong, and then the word decision was spelled wrong. So you make 3 spelling errors on a statue. Like, that's absolutely crazy. And the Lakers came out today after all this happened, so that they're going to be fixing the spelling errors on the statue. So a little bit of an interesting situation going on there. And then some Rudy Gobert news. He hasn't been in the news too much recently in kind of his breakout year with the Timberwolves, but he was fined $100,000 for making the money gesture this past week. Obviously, a lot of people aren't really going to care about this thing as a story, but the funny thing is, it comes right around the 4-year anniversary of his COVID incident that went down when he touched all the microphones. When somebody asked him if he has COVID, he said he doesn't. And then playfully at the end of the interview, he touched all of the microphones. And then a couple days later, the world shut down because of COVID. And he ended up having COVID, and he gave it to Donovan Mitchell as well on the team. And he practically single-handedly shut the NBA down, too, for a few months. I mean, the NBA was going to shut down regardless, but he started infecting people, and that's what caused it. I mean, if you don't remember, the Timberwolves not coming out of the locker room and that whole fiasco at the beginning of COVID in 2020. absolutely insane. But Rudy Gobert is still doing some wild stuff, and that's something that you can always rely on. And then some other news: Pistons GM Troy Weaver firing back at heckling fans. So there was a fan in the stands at the Pistons game. Pistons fans are definitely fed up. They've been through a lot, have not had a competitor in a while, and there's one specific fan who was heckling the GM Troy Weaver, and Troy Weaver immediately stood up, started heckling him back, said like he'll beat him up or something like that, and then got security to kick the guy out. So this is a bad look. This is almost like when David Tepper started throwing soda on fans at the Panthers game and during football season. It's the typical struggling franchise that the fan base is completely turned on them because they're not doing great, and the owner is having enough of it. And in this case, the GM is having enough of it. And you just have to have thick skin, I think, in this kind of situation. You're getting paid millions of dollars to be the GM of a team, and your team's not good. And these people pay a lot of money to go see your team, and if you're consistently bad, you're going to get booed. It doesn't matter what city you play in. It doesn't matter if it's Detroit. It doesn't matter if it's Minnesota. It doesn't matter where it is. The fans will turn on you if, for a long time, if they don't get a competitor at all, or even kind of get like a glimmer of possibly becoming competitive down the stretch, but in trying to build a winner, at least putting in the effort to build a winner, I should say. But those are a few interesting things going around the NBA. This is going to be a very short NBA section of the episode today because college basketball is running the basketball world right now. And first things first, before we jump into the tournament, the final AP poll came out today. So obviously the regular season is done. They do release an AP poll the day after Selection Sunday, which is technically the final AP poll. Nobody really cares because at that point the bracket is set. So no one's going to care about the top 25 in the country. So this is always in my sense. The AP poll right before conference tournaments is always pretty much the last one of the season, and the top stays the same. Houston remains number 1 in the country. UConn remains 2. Purdue remained 3. UNC jumped up to number 4 after beating Duke. Kentucky jumped 6 spots after beating Tennessee from 15 to 9. So they jumped into the top 10 in the final AP poll heading into SEC conference play. Baylor fell a couple spots again from 11 to 14. South Carolina ended up having a great year. They finished the season at 15 on the top 25. A team that nobody thought was going to be competitive at all this year. And Kansas continues to fall. They fell a couple more spots again this week, down to 16. Gonzaga moved up to 17 after not being ranked for practically the entire season. Utah State also jumped up to 18 after their fantastic year. Washington State, who was only the second team in the Pac-12 ranked, fell from 18 to 22. Nevada joined for the first time this season. I've been kind of a homer for Nevada to be in the top 25 all year, and they were never getting the love, and they finally jump in to end the season at 23. Texas Tech also rejoins at 25, and South Florida fell out after their loss this week. So that's the final AP poll. It's practically very similar to last week. Just a couple of teams moving around a bit. Kentucky jumping into the top 10, and 1, 2, and 3 remain the same. Houston ends the season as the number 1 overall team, and Purdue ends the season as the 3rd ranked team. So that'll be very, very interesting to see how that goes down. And now, before we jump into our previews of the conference tournaments, we got to check out who has punched their ticket so far. So this past week, there was a ton of mid-major tournaments, as they always do. A bunch of the mid-majors have their tournaments this past week, and then the big-time conferences have their tournaments starting this week, leading up to Selection Sunday, which is this upcoming Sunday. But a few teams have already punched their ticket. In the Big South, Longwood ended up beating UNC Asheville in the championship 85-59. So Longwood has made the NCAA tournament. They were 21-13 on the season. They were 6-10 in conference play. So they will most likely be a 16 seed. In the Missouri Valley Conference, Drake ended up beating Indiana State in the championship. Indiana State was ranked in the top 25 at one point this year. They ended up winning 84-80. Drake 28-6 on the season, 16-4 in conference play. Had yet again another great season, and they're going to get a pretty decent seed. And Indiana State will probably be an at-large bid as well. So both of those. So despite losing the championship, both those teams are probably going to make it to the tournament. And then in the ASUN division, Stetson ends up winning the championship for the first time in school program history. They'll be in March Madness. They beat Austin Peay 94-91 in the championship. They were 22-12 on the season, 11-5 in conference play. Stetson down in Florida, if for anybody who doesn't know, good baseball school, has put out some MLB prospects, but never does anything in basketball. But they'll be in the March Madness for the first time in their school's history. And then in the Ohio Valley Conference, the first team to end up punching their ticket a couple of days ago, Morehead State ended up beating Arkansas Little Rock 69-55. Morehead State's a pretty notable name in March Madness. They win their conference very, very often. Sometimes they even have some sneaky teams that win a game or so. They were 26-8 on the season and 14-4 conference play. So Longwood, Drake, Stetson, and Morehead State have all punched their tickets. At the time of this episode being recorded, going on right now is the Sun Belt Championship, Arkansas State versus James Madison, and the SoCon Championship, East Tennessee State versus Samford. So by the time this episode airs, those two conferences will have their champion as well. So there'll be 6 teams who have punched their ticket instead of the 4 as of right now. But those 2 games are going on right now. So Longwood, Drake, Stetson, and Morehead State all joining. And jumping over from that, we'll jump right into our conference tournament previews. And we usually, here on the 3&D, go over the Power 6 conferences. But we're going to be going over the Power 6 plus the Mountain West, because the Mountain West has been dynamic this year. So first things first, we'll jump into the ACC tournament beginning Tuesday, which is tomorrow night at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. This is going down. So first round of the tournament goes down on Tuesday. Second round is on Wednesday. And the way that the bracket is set up, the 12 versus 13, 10 versus 15, and 11 versus 14 will play Tuesday. Wednesday will be a bunch of those winners, including the 8 versus 9, and the 1 through 4 seeds will all get buys in the first 2 rounds and automatically play on Thursday. So the way that the tournament is going to be constructed is Tuesday. Number 12 seed Notre Dame will take on number 13 seed Georgia Tech on Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. And then number 10 seed NC State will take on number 15 Louisville, who ended up finishing in last place in the ACC. Then 11 seed Boston College will be taking on number 14 seed Miami. And then in the second round, 8 seed, which is going to go down on Wednesday, the noontime game on Wednesday, will be 8 seed Virginia Tech taking on 9 seed Florida State. And then the winner of Notre Dame Georgia Tech takes on number 5 seed Wake Forest, who right now is on the bubble trying to make it to the tournament. And then the winner of NC State Louisville will take on 7 seed Syracuse at 6:30 on Wednesday. And then the winner of Boston College Miami will play number 6 seeded Clemson at 9:00 on Wednesday. And then Thursday is reserved for the semifinals, and the top 4 seeds in the ACC automatically make it to the quarterfinal, not semifinals, the quarterfinals, I should say. So number 1 seed North Carolina, number 2 seed is Duke, number 3 seed is Virginia, and number 4 seed is Pittsburgh. So that's how things stand right now, and they will all get buys. And then the semifinals will take place on Friday, and the ACC championship goes down Saturday night at 8:30 on ESPN. So the ACC has been a very interesting conference all season long. It's really been North Carolina, Duke, and then everybody else. Virginia has had some good looks throughout the year. They ended up finishing as the 3 seed, but North Carolina ended up being 4th in the country, 25-6 on the season, 17-3 conference play. Duke ended up 24-7, 15-5 in conference play. as the 11th seed. They're the only two top 25 teams in the ACC. And then you have Virginia, who was 13-7 in conference play. Pittsburgh was 12-8. Wake Forest, Clemson, and Syracuse all tied at 11-9. So by far, those were the top teams in the ACC. As of right now, Joe Lunardi has his projections for the tournament in the ACC. He's got both Duke and North Carolina as 2 seeds in the tournament. He also has Clemson as a 5 seed, and he's got Virginia as an 11 seed play. And he actually, as of right now, has Virginia as one of the last teams to make it. Last 4 in is where Virginia ranks right now. So as of right now, the ACC has 4 tournament teams, according to Joe Lunardi. Both Wake Forest and Pittsburgh are in the next 4 out right now. So they will most likely need to win a couple of tournament games, probably make it to the semifinals for them to have any chance of making it to March Madness, both Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. Wake Forest will get to play the winner of Notre Dame, Georgia Tech in the first round, and then if they win that, they'll play Pittsburgh. So that could end up being a big matchup. Pittsburgh got the 4 seed, so they automatically make it to the quarterfinals, and they play the winner of Wake Forest game. So it's most likely going to be Pitt versus Wake Forest in the quarterfinals, and that could be a very interesting game because if Wake Forest ends up winning that, they might sneak into the tournament because they win 2 games in the ACC and make it to the semifinals, probably against UNC, where they probably lose. Probably doesn't even make a difference, though. So this is definitely going to be an interesting tournament. The ACC was not extremely competitive this year, except for the top half. But they also announced the ACC awards today, so we'll go over those. On the All ACC first team, RJ Davis from North Carolina, no surprise there. PJ Hall from Clemson, Kyle Filipowski from Duke, Hunter Sallis from Wake Forest, and Blake Hinson from Pittsburgh. On the second team was Armando Bacot from North Carolina, Reese Beekman from Virginia, Judah Mintz from Syracuse, Norchad O'Meara from Miami, and Quinnen Post from Boston College. And then All ACC third team was DJ Horn from NC State, Harrison Ingram from UNC, Jeremy Roach from Duke, Marcus Burden from Notre Dame, and Sean Padula from Virginia Tech. All defensive team was Reese Beekman and Ryan Dunn, both from Virginia. Shocking that Virginia has 2 all defense teams. They always do. Malik Brown from Syracuse, Armando Bacot from UNC, Quinnen Post from Boston College. And the ACC Player of the Year was RJ Davis from North Carolina. No surprise there. He won by a landslide in the voting. Defensive Player of the Year was Reese Beekman from Virginia. Not a surprise there at all either. And then Rookie of the Year was Marcus Burden from Notre Dame. So that practically wraps up the ACC. Tournament tips off Tuesday at 2:00 p.m., where you're going to get the double-digit seeds will be playing to advance into the second round and see how deep that they can go in the tournament. So jumping over from the ACC, up next we got the Big Ten. So the Big Ten Conference tournament begins Wednesday. It's all taking place at the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where home of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Their bracket is set up similar to the ACC. Wednesday it begins 12 versus 13, 11 versus 14. Goes down on Wednesday. Then Thursday is the 8 versus 9, and then the 5, 6, and 7 also play, and then 1 through 4 seeds get buys in the first 2 rounds and automatically make it to the quarterfinals as well in the Big Ten. So the way that the Big Ten is going to be constructed is Wednesday at 5:30, number 13 Rutgers will be taking on number 12 Maryland, and number 14 Michigan will be taking on number 11 Penn State. Michigan finished in last place in the Big Ten this year, which is honestly kind of crazy to think about. They were 3-17 in conference play, 8-23 overall. So that was tough. And then in day 2 on Thursday, 8 seed Michigan State will take on 9 seed Minnesota. 5 seed Wisconsin will play the winner of Maryland Rutgers. 7 seed Iowa will take on number 10 Ohio State. And number 6 seed Indiana will be taking on the winner of Penn State Michigan. And then the top 4 seeds automatically make it to the quarterfinals, which is on Friday. And the number 1 Purdue will play the winner of Michigan State, Minnesota. Number 4 Northwestern will play the winner of the Wisconsin game. Number 2 Illinois will play the winner of Iowa versus Ohio State, and then number 3 Nebraska will play the winner of the Indiana game. And then of course the semifinals start on Saturday at noontime, and 25 minutes after that game is over, both of those games will be on CBS Saturday afternoon. And then the 2024 Big Ten Championship will go down Sunday evening at 4:00 p.m. on CBS. This is the last game right before Selection Sunday. The Big Ten always has the last game right before Selection Sunday. And as of right now, Joe Lunardi's got 6 teams from the Big Ten making it to the tournament. Obviously, Purdue being one of them. They're going to be a number 1 seed. Illinois being a number 4 seed. Wisconsin being a 6 seed. Both Michigan State and Northwestern being an 8 seed. And Nebraska being a 9 seed. So he's got those 6 teams all making it in the tournament as of right now. He doesn't have any Big Ten teams on the bubble. He doesn't have Indiana making it. Doesn't have Iowa making it. He's got Iowa on like the next 4 out, I believe. But he's got Michigan State sneaking in there. Michigan State did not have a great year. They were supposed to be a lot more dynamic than they were, but they ended up finishing 18-13, 10-10 in conference play. And they're going to have to end up playing in the day 2 of the tournament because they ended up being the number 8 seed in the Big Ten Conference for this year. So the Big Ten tournament is definitely going to be very interesting. The only 2 teams that are ranked in the top 25 this week in the Big Ten is Purdue is ranked 3rd and Illinois is ranked 13. And then right behind them is Nebraska, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Indiana, and so on. So Big Ten Conference definitely has normally been a powerhouse in college basketball, but honestly, not nearly as much as their rivals, the Big 12 Conference. So we'll jump into the Big 12 Conference. Big 12 Conference tournament begins Tuesday at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. The Big 12 has been the best conference in college basketball this year. There's no doubt about it. You could say Big 12 is number 1. Big East is probably number 2 with how deep that these conferences are. So the Big 12 tournament is definitely my most anticipated conference tournament this weekend. So Tuesday, it begins. The 12 versus 13, 11 versus 14 will be on Tuesday. And then they have Wednesday will be the 8 seed versus 9 seed, 7 seed versus 10 seed, and then the 5 and 6 will all play on the second day, and then the top 4 seeds all end up getting buys as well. So that's kind of how it's structured. The top 4 seeds end up getting 2 buys, just like the way that the rest of the tournaments have been kind of put together. So this one's a little bit different because it's got an extra round. So it goes down on Tuesday. What the structure is, on Tuesday, number 12 seed UCF will be taking on number 13 seed Oklahoma State, and number 14 seed West Virginia will be taking on number 11 seed Cincinnati. So those are the 4 worst teams. And then on Wednesday, in the second round, number 6 seed BYU will be taking on the winner of Oklahoma State UCF. Number 8 seed TCU will be taking on number 9 seed Oklahoma. Number 7 seed Texas will be taking on number 10 seed Kansas State. And then number 6 seed Kansas will be taking on the winner of West Virginia Cincinnati. And then the 2 buys, the top 4 teams in the conference, all get 2 buys. And then the quarterfinals on Thursday, Texas Tech, number 4 seed Texas Tech will take on the winner of the BYU game. Number 1 seed Houston will take on the winner of Oklahoma TCU. The number 2 seed Iowa State will take on the winner of Texas Kansas State. And then number 3 seed Baylor will take on the winner of the Kansas game. So that could end up being a great quarterfinals if that's Baylor versus Kansas. Kansas fell a lot at the end of the season. They just could not put together enough wins. They ended up falling to a 6th seed. They end up, after being top 5 in the country for a good chunk of the season, they finished the season 22-9, 10-8 in conference play, which is absolutely crazy. So they were 12-1 in non-conference games this year and 10-8 in conference games. So they were not used to the newly powerhouse Big 12, especially with Houston now in the Big 12 and BYU in the Big 12, just adding more depth to the best conference in college basketball. West Virginia and Oklahoma State tied as the worst at 4-14 in conference play. So that's why they're going to be playing on the first day. But there's a bunch of powerhouses in this entire conference. They have 6 teams that are in the top 25 this week. Obviously, the number 1 team in the entire country, Houston, is their number 1 seed. Number 7 is 7th ranked team in the country is Iowa State. 14 is Baylor. 16 is Kansas. 20 is BYU, and 25 is Texas Tech. And then Texas, TCU, Oklahoma, all looking on the outside. And as of right now, Joe Lunardi has 9 Big 12 teams making the tournament. Houston, he has as a number 1 seed, obviously. He's got Iowa State as a number 2 seed. He's got both Baylor and Kansas as 3 seeds as of right now. Kansas may have fallen a little bit after that, but this was as of yesterday. He's got BYU as a 5 seed. He has both Texas and Texas Tech as 8 seeds. He's got Oklahoma as a 9 seed and TCU as a 10 seed. So he's got 9 teams in the Big 12 making the tournament. He's got 9 of the 14 teams that are in the Big 12 playing in the tournament. So this is going to be by far the best conference tournament of the entire week, I think. This is the one I'm most excited for. I mean, there's going to be star power all throughout the week. We have a good chance of seeing a quarterfinal game of Baylor versus Kansas. And those semifinals can end up being great. We might end up getting a Houston BYU. We might end up getting a Houston Texas Tech. And then we'll probably end up getting an Iowa State Kansas or an Iowa State Baylor in the quarterfinals. I mean, the semifinals, there's going to be some good games that end up getting put together in the Big 12 tournament. So I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited to see it. This is definitely by far my most anticipated tournament on the list. And then right behind that, my second most anticipated tournament on the list is the Big East tournament. So the Big East tournament will begin Wednesday at Madison Square Garden in New York City, as everybody knows, where it always takes place. So behind the Big 12, the Big East has definitely been the second best conference in college basketball. Wednesday is when they tip off. There's 3 games on Wednesday, 8 versus 9, 7 versus 10, and 6 versus 11. And then Thursday, there's a few more games on top of that. And there's only 4 rounds in this tournament. So the way it's going to be constructed is first round will begin on Wednesday. 8 seed Butler will take on 9 seed Xavier. 7 seed Providence will take on 10 seed Georgetown. And 6 seed Villanova will take on 11 seed DePaul. And then in the quarterfinals, the top 5 teams all get 1 bye. So the top 5 teams were number 1 UConn, who's going to be playing the winner of Butler versus Xavier. Number 4 Seton Hall will be taking on number 5 St. John's. That's a matchup that's already determined for the quarterfinals between those two. And then number 2 Creighton will be playing the winner of number 7 Providence versus number 10 Georgetown. And number 3 Marquette will be taking on the winner of number 6 Villanova versus number 11 DePaul. So this is going to be another really, really interesting one. UConn, and there's a good chance it's a good chance that in the semifinals you're going to have either UConn versus either Seton Hall or St. John's, and then you'll probably have a Creighton versus Marquette semifinals. And then the Big East Championship is going to be really good. So I'm excited for this one. Obviously, this is one of the smaller conferences out of all of the rest of them. There's only 11 teams, so there's only 4 rounds in the conference. But it all begins on Wednesday, where the back end are going to try to win a couple of games. And as of right now, Joe Lunardi's got 5 teams from the Big East in his tournament. UConn is obviously a number 1 seed. Both Marquette and Creighton are 3 seeds. Seton Hall he has as a 10 seed, and St. John's he has as an 11 seed play-in. And he actually has St. John's currently as the last team in the tournament, so barely making it. He also has Villanova as the first team out. So those two, both St. John's and Villanova, have a lot on the line going into this tournament. St. John's will be playing Seton Hall in the quarterfinals, and Villanova is playing against DePaul in the first round. And then the winner of that game will take on Marquette in the second round. So they're both going to be sweating it out come unless either of them makes it to the Big East semifinals at least, or the Big East finals. They're both going to be sweating it out come Selection Sunday to see if they end up getting snubbed or if they end up making it. But the all Big East teams came out today, so that's an interesting one to look over. Two UConn guys, Tristan Newton and Cam Spencer, were named to the All Big East first team. Baylor Shireman from Creighton, Tyler Kolek from Marquette, Devin Carter from Providence, and Kadari Richmond from Seton Hall. Not surprised by any of those names. And then the All Big East second team was Trey Alexander from Creighton, Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton, Oso Ighodaro from Marquette, Dennis Jenkins from St. John's, and Eric Dixon from Villanova. So those are all, none of those comes as a surprise as a big East fan. Those have by far been the biggest names in each of those conferences. And now jumping over, we'll check out the SEC. So the SEC tournament will begin Wednesday at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, as it is every year. Once again, just like the other tournaments, it begins on Wednesday with 2 games, a 12 versus 13 and 11 versus 14, and then Thursdays an 8 versus 9 and a 7 versus 10, and then the 5s and 6s also play, and then on Friday, the 1 through 4 seeds all get byes in the first 2 rounds of the tournament. So the way that it's constructed is on Wednesday, number 12 seed Arkansas will take on number 13 Vanderbilt, and number 11 Georgia will take on 14 Missouri. And then on Thursday for the second round, number 9 seed Mississippi State will take on 8 seed LSU. 5 seed South Carolina will take on the winner of Arkansas versus Vanderbilt. 7 seed Texas A&M will take on 10 seed Ole Miss. 6 seed Florida will take on the winner of Georgia versus Missouri. And then in the quarterfinals on Friday, top 4 seeds all get byes. So number 1 Tennessee will take on the winner of Mississippi State LSU. Number 4 Auburn will take on the winner of the South Carolina game. Number 2 Kentucky will take on the winner of Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. And number 3 Alabama will take on the winner of the Florida game. So that's the way that things are constructed in the SEC. And then the semifinals will be on Saturday. And then the SEC finals, the SEC championship game, will be Sunday at noon on ESPN. The Big East championship game, too, I forgot to mention, will be Saturday at 6:30 on Fox. And the Big 12 as well, I think I forgot to mention, will also be Saturday at 5 o'clock on ESPN. So those are when all of those will land. Very interesting year in the SEC. Very, very, very interesting year. A lot of flip-flopping and a lot of teams that we didn't think were going to be that great. The SEC has 5 teams in the top 25 to end the season. Tennessee is ranked 5th in the nation, Kentucky 9, Auburn 12, Alabama 19, and South Carolina 15. South Carolina had an absolutely incredible year, 25-6, 13-5 in conference play, finished 15th in the country, 5th in the SEC. Florida had a great year as well, finishing 11-7. Texas A&M had a big down year. They were projected to be a lot better. They ended up finishing 18-13, 9-9 in conference play. Ole Miss gave us a little tease heading into this season. They looked like they were going to be good, but they ended up fizzling out. They finished 7-11 in conference play, and they probably won't make the tournament, barring a deep run in the SEC, tournament. As of right now, though, Joe Lunardi has 7 teams from the SEC making it to March Madness. He's got Tennessee as a 1 seed. He's got Kentucky, Alabama, and Auburn all as 4 seeds. He has South Carolina and Florida as 6 seeds, and then he has Mississippi State as a 10 seed. So he's got those 7 all making it to the tournament. And the teams that will just miss will be Texas A&M. LSU has not had a great year, but he's got Mississippi State making it, and Texas A&M was 9-9 in conference play, 18-13. Mississippi State was 19-12, and 8-10 in conference play, and he's got them as a 10 seed. So kind of interesting, under 500 conference play. They were a 9 seed in the SEC tournament, and he's got them as a 10 seed in the tournament. They did beat some big competition though, so they do have a decent resume. So that's what it looks like for the SEC championship. I'm really excited for the later rounds. I think that a quarterfinal game that could be really interesting is South Carolina versus Auburn. Auburn automatically makes it to the quarterfinals, but South Carolina plays the winner of Arkansas Vanderbilt, so they should easily win that game. South Carolina-Auburn game would be really, really interesting. That's what I really would want to see. And then we get a possible semifinals of either Tennessee versus South Carolina or Auburn, and possibly a Kentucky-Alabama semifinals could also be really, really good. So the SEC will definitely be exciting. And then by far the weakest of all of the power conferences throughout the year. And it sadly to report too, this will be the final Pac-12 tournament, as the conference will be completely going under after this season. We have the Pac-12 tournament that begins on Wednesday at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Pac-12 tournament has a similar structure. They only have 11 teams, just like the Big East does. So the top 4 teams all get 1 bye, but the first day on Wednesday, 8 versus 9, 5 versus 12, 7 versus 10, 6 versus 11, and then the top 4 all get byes. So the way it's constructed, on Wednesday, number 8 Washington will play number 9 USC. Number 5 UCLA will play number 12 Oregon State. 7 California will take on 10 Stanford. And number 6 Utah will take on number 11 Arizona State. And then the 4 teams that get byes, number 1 Arizona will take on the winner of Washington USC. Number 4 Oregon takes on the winner of UCLA Oregon State. Number 2 Washington State takes on the winner of Cal versus Stanford. And then number 3 Colorado takes on the winner of Utah Arizona State. So, there, to be honest with you, not too much excitement around the Pac-12 tournament. They just have not been that good this year. As of right now, Joe Lunardi has 3 teams making it to the tournament in the Pac-12. He's got Arizona as a 2 seed, much deserving. He's got Washington State as a 5 seed, also much deserving. And he's got Colorado sneaking in. As of right now, they're making the last 4 in as an 11 seed at playing an 11 seed playing game. So he's got Colorado somehow making it. He's got the top 3 teams in the SEC in the Pac-12 all making it. I mean, Arizona has been great all season. They're 6th in the country, 24-7, 15-5 in conference play. Washington State's 22 in the country. They're 14-6 in conference play. And then Colorado had a good year too, 22-9 on the year, 13-7 in conference play. And then it's just a big fall off from there. And the big disappointment to me was USC. I thought USC was going to actually have a good team this year. Isaiah Collier coming in, Boogie Ellis, Bronny James, and they just had a terrible year. 14-17 on the season, 8-12 in conference play. They just did not have a good year at all. And to be honest with you, the Pac-12 has not been competitive at all over the last 10 plus years. So it's not going to pain me to watch that conference dissolve. I mean, it'll pain a lot of historians because Pac-12 is, historically one of the longest lasting conferences in college basketball, but they're not going to last too much longer. So that's the Pac-12 tournament. And then to wrap up the show, we're going to hit you with the Mountain West tournament. Had to throw this one in there because the Mountain West has been one of the sneakiest conferences in all of college basketball this entire season. The Mountain West Conference begins on Wednesday at the Thomas and Mack Center, home of UNLV in Las Vegas, Nevada. Similar format. The top 5 seeds actually get byes in this in this round. But on the first day, it begins on Wednesday. We have an 8 versus 9, 7 versus 10, and the 6 versus 11. And then 1 through 6 all play the winners of those games on Thursday. So the way it's presently constructed as of right now, on Wednesday, number 8 Wyoming takes on number 9 Fresno State. Number 7 Colorado State takes on number 10 San Jose State. Number 6 New Mexico takes on number 11 Air Force. And then on Thursday in the quarterfinals, we have number 1 seeded Utah State taking on the winner of Wyoming Fresno State. Number 4 seed UNLV takes on number 5 seed San Diego State. Number 2 seed Nevada takes on the winner of Colorado State San Jose State. And number 3 Boise State takes on the winner of New Mexico Air Force. And then I think there's a lot, to be honest with you, I'm really excited for the Mountain West tournament. The semifinals will be on Friday. We have the chance of seeing a Utah State, San Diego State semifinals. We might end up seeing a Nevada versus New Mexico semifinals, or a Nevada versus Boise State semifinals. There's a lot of interesting matchups, and I think Nevada, if Colorado State's able to beat San Jose State and play Nevada in the second round, that's going to be a fantastic game. Nevada versus Colorado State, both sneaky teams all season long. I think either one could win that game. And as of right now, the championship game then will take place Saturday at 3:00 p.m. So we'll know the Mountain West champion by Saturday, and we'll have to wait till Sunday. Joe Lombardi right now has 5 Mountain West teams in the tournament. He has San Diego State as a 5 seed. He's got Utah State as a 6 seed, Nevada as a 7 seed, Boise State as a 9 seed, and Colorado State as a 10 seed. And he's got New Mexico as a first 4 team out. So New Mexico barely misses. There's a chance that New Mexico could still make it. So there's a chance that Mountain West could end up having 6 bids, which is absolutely crazy. But at the very least, it seems like they're going to have 5. Colorado State is, a shooing to make the tournament, which is definitely very interesting when you see where they're ranked in the conference. They were 10-8 in conference games, 22-9 on the season. They ended up getting a 6 seed in the conference tournament. I mean, there's only 2 teams in the top 25, Utah State at 18 and Nevada at 23. But Boise State, UNLV finished better, and UNLV is not even in the conversation to make the tournament at all. And they were 19-11, 12-6 in conference play. San Diego State was 11-7. New Mexico was 10-8. So any mix of those teams besides UNLV could make the tournament. So I'm definitely excited for the Mountain West. I mean, if you've been watching the show all season long, I've spoke highly of the Mountain West practically the entire season. So I'm definitely excited for this conference tournament. That'll do it for another episode of the 3&D. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Empty the Bench Podcast Network for another episode. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel and follow the social at 3&D ETB. We'll be putting out content all week in case you missed the entire episode. So make sure you follow us, check out Empty the Bench, and you'll be getting snippets of each episode, all the highlights, all the good stuff that you missed. And hope everyone has a great night. We got a huge week of the conference tournaments, so everybody enjoy those. Stay safe, everybody, and make sure to like and subscribe to Empty the Bench on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a good night, everyone.